Just when you think Lenovo's Legion lineup can't get even more confusing, they release an update, or well, a slight refresh for their premium 16-inch gamer. And since this beauty right here runs on an AMD CPU, it is called the Legion 7A. If you remember, we reviewed the Intel version in late 2025, and while it was a bit pricey for a 5060 laptop and battery life was a major letdown, the Legion was still a great gaming and creator option. So it's going to be very interesting to see what you gain from the switch to AMD's Ryzen 400 series and a slightly revised chassis that basically trades performance for mobility. Let's get into it. I mentioned it already, but when it comes to the Legion's internals, the 7A gets the Ryzen 400 treatment, and in our case with the Ryzen 9 HX 470. And considering we haven't been too impressed with what Team Red put out in 2026 so far, well, let's see until we get into our performance numbers here. Similar to the 2025 Intel-based sibling, we are dealing with an RTX 5060 once again. And for the 7A, it's your only option, while the Intel model was also available with a 5070. Despite the less power-hungry CPU, Lenovo still had to nerf the GPU slightly, and instead of the 5060's max TGP of 115 watts, in the Intel model, this one right here is running with just 95 watts. So again, it will be very interesting what this will mean for performance. In addition to the core components, our sample bets on 32 gigs of RAM, which are soldered. Another major change compared to the 2025 Legion 7, and your games and creative projects will find their home on a 1TB SSD in the 2240 standard with very decent, but unfortunately not very stable transfers in our torture test. This should hardly be something you will notice in everyday life, but it's still something you should be aware of. And again, while the RAM is soldered, Lenovo thankfully kept the second 2280 NVMe slot, so you at least get some flexibility when it comes to storage, once you are able to afford SSDs again. And speaking of prices, the Legion 7A is incredibly expensive, and it seems to be a direct victim of everything that is going on in the world of tech and laptops right now. And while I wasn't able to find US prices here in Germany, well, it's very tough to recommend a 5060 laptop as good as it may be for that much money. That said, this might be what we have to deal with for the foreseeable future, so it's very hard for us to tell whether it's temporary or the new normal. But let's talk about the good stuff for now, and that is definitely the chassis, and the Legion 7 still looks as gorgeous as ever, especially in this all white and silver color. You still get a full metal build, even though it does feel a bit plasticky, which I would assume is because of the white coating. Compared to the 7i from last year, Lenovo shaved off about 200 grams, which is very welcome when commuting with the 16-incher, and the chassis is also ever so slightly smaller in its overall footprint. Port selection is the same once again, with a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, a pair of USB-C 4s and the headphone jack on the left, the power connector and HDMI 2.1 on the back, and a second USB-A, as well as a full-size SD card reader with very impressive transfer rates next to the physical webcam switch on the right. When it comes to inputs, we can keep it short, and you will hardly find something to complain about regarding the keyboard. It's a Lenovo laptop after all, while I wish they would simply put the touchpad of the Yoga Pro 9, for example, in their Legion laptops as well, since similar to even the high-end Pro 7 we just reviewed and its RTX 5090 config, it simply does not feel particularly premium on the Legion 7. On the display side of things, our 7A gets a bit of an upgrade, and the 240Hz OLED is simply put an amazing panel no matter what you do with it. And unless you absolutely despise glossy displays, you should hardly find anything wrong here, be it for entertainment or gaming purposes or when using the Legion in more visual-oriented profession. But of course, the biggest change will be in performance. So how about we get into our measurements here, and as always we put together a little overview for you so you can get an idea of what hides behind the Legion's different power modes, and we did our testing in performance. On the CPU side, you will have to deal with the expected performance hit, and judging from what we have seen with the different performance modes, the Ryzen CPU simply seems like it does not really benefit from the very high power targets, which are actually in line with what the Intel model was able to deliver, but the 255HX in our 2025 sample scaled a lot better with more juice. If a slower CPU will matter that much though, outside of synthetics, well, we will see in a little bit. Since system performance, for example, is excellent and actually on par with the 7i, and subjectively, the Legion 7A always felt snappy and reliable not only for games, but also unplugged when just surfing the web or using it for more creator-oriented tasks. When it comes to the 5060, I was also very pleasantly surprised by our results, since despite the technically slower CPU and slightly reduced wattage, the GPU in this one right here can easily keep up with its Intel-powered sibling, which is great news, and overall you still get what you would expect from Nvidia's mid-range GPU. That's also confirmed by our Blender runs, which show most 5060s being almost on par when you hit them with an isolated render workload. So again, it seems like the 95 watts power limit is the sweet spot for this one. In our 1080p performance rating though, the Intel CPU does net us a sizable performance benefit, while comparing scores in QHD once again nets us almost the same numbers. So if you prefer faster titles that are more CPU intensive, the Intel model will be the better pick, while the difference is only marginal when you are mostly into GPU bound titles, which is definitely the majority in today's day and age. If you want to get additional insights and benchmark results for more games and settings, please make sure to check out our written review on the website, or maybe watch our Forza Horizon 6 video, since I did most of my initial playthrough on the Legion. When it comes to fan noise, I had high hopes, but unfortunately, the technically more efficient CPU does not bring any benefits, and in performance, the Legion 7A still gets quite audible and is actually on par with the 7i according to our numbers. But as always, please hear for yourself. Oh, and please sound off below which performance modes you usually use for your laptops. Your feedback is incredibly valuable for us in this regard. Alright, that leaves us with battery life. And well, I have good news, and the 7A pretty much doubles what we have been able to measure for the Intel model, and effectively removes one of the major drawbacks of the Legion 7 in general. And with more than 9 hours in our simulated Wi-Fi test, you are quite flexible without having to worry about where to find the next outlet. Alrighty good people, that should be it for the Legion 7A. In general, switching CPUs here was the right call, even though I wonder if Panther Lake would have been the even better choice, both when it comes to CPU performance and battery life. But compared to the 2025 Legion 7i, you gain much longer runtimes with only a slight compromise when running CPU-only workloads, while gaming and creator performance should be pretty much the same, even though things will vary a bit depending on your individual workload. So the Legion is still a very well made, very good looking premium 16-inch performance notebook with a ton of ports, a gorgeous OLED and an incredible keyboard. I would also love to say you get your money's worth for a 5060 laptop, but unfortunately that is simply not the case. And while you should not compare prices with what came out last year or is still in stock somewhere, the current sticker price hurts a lot. And if you can find the 7i somewhere and you don't mind the much shorter battery life and value things like exchangeable RAM, and if you can also save a few bucks, then I would personally go for that one in a heartbeat. If Lenovo has simply lost it, or if the Legion's asking price is simply a sign of what's to come, and unfortunately that seems more likely, well, we will see in the next few months. But it might make sense to monitor prices very carefully, and if you can find a good deal on something from 2025, you might want to pull the trigger sooner rather than later. But as always, let me know what you think about this beauty, sound off below. Please leave your like and sub on your way out, and have a look around the channel for more about tech and laptops. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. My name is Alex, you have been absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.